The next concept that I want to discuss, which relates to our functional rewards, is something that I call obedience with exception. And this is a super important concept for me. So many of us as dog trainers who were brought up in a traditional way of thinking have always learned that obedience needs to be absolute. Meaning if I tell my dog sit, that means sit no matter what's going on around them. If I tell my dog place to go on their dog bed, it doesn't matter if a grenade goes off next to them, they need to stay on their place. And so this is something that I've really, over the years, sort of steered away from. I do think that there are a variety of contexts where our dogs should understand that if we give a command, they need to hold that command. But I do think there's a tremendous amount of value, especially if we own a dog who is a little bit insecure, in teaching them that there are exceptions to their obedience. And I think, again, the best way to explain this to you guys is by way of example. So let's take, for instance, a dog who is on a place command, right? Place command, if you recall, means go to your dog bed and don't move. Just hang out there until I give you permission to do anything else. And generally speaking, we want that to be the case regardless of the distraction that's around. But let's now say that my dog is uncomfortable about people, and while he's on his place, a person starts approaching who wants to pet him. Now, if he really feels that that command is absolute, then being on his place is exactly the same as being in a corner, right? And we all know that you probably shouldn't approach a cornered dog who's a little bit uncomfortable. So if he thinks that he has no other options and he's trapped in this very fixed location, then he might as well be cornered. And so what I like my dogs to learn, and the dogs that I work with, is that if there's a conflict approaching, that it's okay for them to get up and walk away. They don't have to wait for my permission to move away from conflict. Because to me, that's the dog making an excellent choice, especially if it's a dog who historically would choose to lunge or bite people that are approaching. So I really want my dogs to learn early on that if they're in one of these sort of sticky predicaments where there's a person or a dog oncoming, that we will allow it, if they get up off of that place, to walk away from the oncoming person. Now, we don't allow them to move towards the oncoming person, right? This has to be the dog showing a sign that they're trying to resolve conflict by walking away. And that's something that we always want to encourage. So not only do I never punish the dog for that, but in fact, I'm going to praise the dog. I'm going to let them know they did an awesome job. I'll probably give them, again, 30 seconds to just chill for a minute. And then we're probably going to bring them back and maybe try again and try and work them through these problems, but knowing that they always have that exit plan. There's always an escape route. There's always somewhere they can go if they need to just self-soothe, that they have that option. And this is going to go a really long way to preventing explosions and preventing accidents. The other thing that this does is it sort of creates a safety buffer, right? So if you have a dog who's a little bit uncomfortable about people or dogs, but your dog understands the concept of obedience with exception, and we've really encouraged them for walking away, we've given our dogs the ability and the permission to self-soothe, even in scenarios where we aren't present, right? So if my dog is just hanging out on his own and somebody is approaching, and I've encouraged him from walking away in the past, and I've done that very heavily, then it's far more likely that my dog's going to resolve that situation by walking away rather than by standing still, fixating, and then eventually lunging when the person gets too close. So we're going to touch on this concept of obedience with exception at various points throughout the remainder of this course. But it's something that I always want you guys keeping in the back of your minds, because it's really going to help you to make sure you have a very, very trusting and positive relationship with your dog.